We are at the Enchanted Forest, an amusement park built in 1955 and closed in the early 90s. And yet, how are we here? How does it look so great? They moved almost the entire park about 4 miles away to a petting zoo called Clark's Elioak Farm, and they've restored a whole bunch of pieces. This castle used to be the main entrance right out on Route 40 in Howard County, Maryland. And just a year or two ago, they took this whole castle apart and reassembled it here at the farm. All kinds of cool pieces and lots of neat things that I remember from my childhood. This sign used to be the entrance to the park. That sat out in the same spot since 1955 up until maybe a year or two ago when they moved it here to the farm, restored it. It looks great, it looks awesome. There's old King Cole up there. He used to be standing out on the highway pointing people into the park. And there's a dragon with his lute, which he caught fire at some point, not by himself. He didn't breathe fire on him, but he's up there, he's been restored. And this used to be a gift shop, but they took the back of it off, but you can still walk through it, which is pretty cool. And a lot of the old nursery rhyme statues and story pieces are still here, all refurbished. I know a lot of them, they use pictures of the originals to match the color. Here's Hickory Dickory Dock. Some stuff is just stationary, standard, static figures. Other things were rides or a little more elaborate. I have a really good memory of the park. This teacup and kettle were from the Alice in Wonderland ride. They were a train of teacups that you would ride in, and if I recall correctly, the kettle here was the engine, was the front car, that a driver drove along a track, and you would go into a mountain and then get off inside the mountain, and you would walk through a giant diorama of the story. The part I remember most is the Queen of Hearts and the court scene, but these are cool. That they have a couple of these throughout the park here at the farm, and you can climb in them and take pictures and all that good stuff. I'm pretty good with my nursery rhymes. I can't quite remember how Peter Peter Pumpkin Eater goes. Peter Peter Pumpkin Eater had a wife and couldn't keep her or feed her, so he put her in a pumpkin shell, and there he fed her very well. Something like that. There she is. She's doing all right for living in a pumpkin. Or as the sign says, a pumpkin. Here's another humongous piece that they were able to move from the park, and it looks fantastic. This is the cottage where the good fairies raised Sleeping Beauty while she was hiding out from her curse. And you can actually go inside it, and I could fit in that a lot easier when I was 6 years old. But there we go, and pretty cool. There's not a whole lot in here, but it's just neat. When you're, 3 feet high, this stuff is amazing. It's cool. And it's cool to think that people in this area were in here 30, 40, 50 years ago when they were kids, and now they can still go inside it. And then you can come out the other side, and the other side of this actually has a nursery rhyme. There is Rockabye Baby in the treetop. I think that was electric back in the day, but you can easily reach up it and swing it, and the baby won't fall. And then here we go from Aesop's Fables. This is the tortoise and the hare. There's the hare resting, taking a nap, because he's so cocky and confident he's gonna win. Meanwhile, the turtle has gone ahead and crossed the finish line. Good job, Mr. Turtle. You've taught us all a lesson about being too confident. At the Enchanted Forest, this bridge went over a creek through the middle of the park, and it has the Jack Be Nimble nursery rhyme on it. And then for some reason here at the farm, they've gone ahead and added SpongeBob to one side, so you can walk on SpongeBob. It's kind of cool though, because they would have done that kind of stuff back in the day, put some pop culture stuff in there. Over here on the other side is none other than Patrick. Hi guys. The birthday party pavilion at the Enchanted Forest was in the mold of Hansel and Gretel and the candy house that they come upon in the woods. That original structure was large enough for hold a birthday party or two, and they were not able to move that. First of all, it was vandalized horribly at the original spot after the park closed. So they've built a little tribute to it, and there's Hansel and Gretel up there. Hansel and Gretel. And then you can look inside and see, maybe, there's plexiglass on all this stuff, so it's hard to film and make out, but there's the witch burning in the fires. A charming story for everybody. There she is inside, but this was built from scratch here at the farm, and it kind of resembles the old house, but again, the old house, the original structure, was big enough to hold at least a birthday party, maybe more than one. Very cool. A diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon, the little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Mind blown. What would a nursery rhyme park be without Humpty Dumpty? Perhaps the most popular of all nursery rhymes. That's the original figure, and then they built this replica of the wall, the original wall from the park. And a very popular spot for pictures. Here's Cinderella, and she's getting the glass slipper put on her by, looks like the prince. That's not really how the story works, is it? And this figure is in a coach, a pumpkin coach. This was the first piece that the farm got from the Enchanted Forest, and they refurbished it, and from there they kept adding more and more pieces. But this used to be part of a ride. You can see the tires down there. You could ride in the coach or in a couple of mice, and they would take you through the moat of Cinderellas Castle, and you got off in the moat dry, and you would walk through Cinderella's Castle, and you would see scenes like this one that they have right in here. And then something cool they have for some of these larger attractions that they can't really move the whole piece of, Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, they have this little hall of dioramas. Snow White's house, you could walk in and see Snow White. I think you saw this scene upstairs, and then you would walk down underground for quite a ways, and you would hear the seven dwarfs in the mine. You could see them in little dioramas, and I think there was water and rocks everywhere. That was always a very cool part. And then this Sleeping Beauty diorama was actually in the bottom of the castle, in the main castle that you could see from the highway that we started off at. And it would tell the whole story of Snow White through some dioramas. And then over here, there's a couple of random things. This guy was from the Alice in Wonderland ride, where you rode the teacups into a mountain and you got out and walked and saw all these terribly, terribly frightening statues. And then back here is Peter Pan, who was, or Robin Hood, I'm sorry. It looks like Peter Pan, but it's Robin Hood. He was hanging up at the restaurant, which was called Robin Hood's Barn. Here's the spider who sat down beside her, her being Ms. Muffet, and that's from the Enchanted Forest. And then they've added here at the farm this rope web that you can climb all over. And that's a way they've plussed the attraction for today's kids. The three little pigs, which they've moved the figures. There's the pig who built his house of straw, and it is no longer a house. And over here we have the poor number pig 2 who built his house of sticks, and that did not turn out too well. Here's the big bad wolf. I want to say that that is newer, because that looks an awful lot like the Disney version, and it also looks a lot more artistically, talentedly rendered than some of these older ones. So maybe that's newer that they built here. And then this is the House of Bricks, still standing, because the big bad wolf is no match for bricks. And you can walk right up into it and look inside. And they have a wolf skin. Is that a bear or a wolf?
It's a bear.
A bear, but In a previous story, the pigs also killed a bear, and that story is too graphic for novels of whatnot. Novels of whatnot? And then there's the pig up there, who we know is Practical Pig, or pig number 3. He's gotten some helicopter backup. There's pig number 2, in this version a girl pig. Her house fell down. My absolute favorite thing at Enchanted Forest when I was a kid was Mount Vesuvius, which was a huge mountain in the back of the park, and the only way to get to it was to take a raft over to Robinson Crusoe's Island. Robinson Crusoe's Island had lots of animals on it. I was terrified of the goats, but I would make that sacrifice to get to this Mount Vesuvius, and I'll show you why in a minute. But they have actually got Robinson Crusoe in here, in this little, there he is. He's hard to make out. Even in person, he's hard to make out, but he's in there hanging out. He was on an island with animals. You would get off the boat, check out the animals, and then you would come around to a humongous bridge that went across the water in the back of the park to a gigantic mountain that had a 75-foot sliding board through it. And I love that they have taken a piece of that sliding board. It's here. This is 25 feet of the actual sliding board that used to make its way all through Mount Vesuvius. It used to twist and turn. You can see at the top where there's a little bit of the turn, but they actually were able to salvage some of this, and it was so cool. When I just went down, huh?
The slide is very sliding.
The slide is very sliding. When I went down it was very slowy, but anyway, the original mountain that sat there for years, it eventually froze and expanded, and the slide fell down into the mountain, so it became impossible to repair. Whew. So I know this is the actual slide. I'm not sure if this is the actual mountain or they just recreated this. I think they recreated it, but anyway, it's pretty awesome that this has survived, and this is the original slide that people like me and even my mother rode 40, 50, 60 years ago. There used to be dozens, maybe hundreds or 100 of these gingerbread men lined up as a fence all along down Route 40, and there are still a few of them that have survived and made it here to the farm. Some people have had these in their backyard or wherever all these years and have been donating them, turning them in piece by piece over the years, which is really cool. So they're kind of spread out all over the park. This batch right here, though, is standing guard of the old woman who lived in a shoe, which is a colossal structure which they were able to move all the way from the original spot. And inside, you used to be able to go up top back in the days before insurance and whatnot, but inside it is a little sliding board that you can go down. Very cool. And I remember playing in here endlessly as a kid, and you could go up it too, but this is shut, but you could go up into it. There's the steps. I'm sticking my hand in the spider web, but and you can go down the slide. So as with most of the stuff here, they did an amazing job moving it and restoring it. And it's the centerpiece of the park now that tons of kids can still enjoy to this day. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. And there's her bucket of water, perpetually spilling out. There's 2 pictures. Every kid in Maryland has a picture of themselves as a child. The Oreo nest at the Maryland Zoo, and then sitting in Willie the Whale's mouth from the original Enchanted Forest. So he used to laugh, but he is still here, and he was in bad shape when they got him here. He was like almost nothing but a frame, and they fixed him up. He looks awesome, and you can sit in his mouth. There's a little dude inside his mouth. Let's see if we can come around this side and get a better shot of Willie. There he is. Awesome, man. He used to sit like right on the edge of the water at the park, and they have him here, but it's a mandatory picture taking spot for anyone visiting. And then the farm here has built this little body of water to showcase a couple of things. Mary Miller's house is here that they've painted up, looks great. And there is a little animated figure inside. He's not running. Last time I was here he was running, but there he is, and he spins around and plays some music. And they also have out here Little Toot, which is a golden book. Disney made a short of him, and we'll come around to the front, but this was an actual boat ride that you would ride around the lake. It went through a tunnel through the mountain, through Mount Vesuvius, and they have this docked here permanently, and you can come up and just check it out and hang out. You can even go up into Little Toot, where the captain would steer and pilot. There he is from the front, Little Toot, and you would just take like a full round trip on him through Mount Vesuvius and back to the dock. Same area where you got on Robinson Crusoe's raft for Mount Vesuvius. Here's the 3 men in a tub, Rub-a-Dub-Dub, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. They're no longer in the water, but they're still here. It's absolutely amazing they were able to move this. This is the Three Bears house. This thing is gigantic, and you can see many references to the Three Bears. There's Papa Bear's pipe. I guess that's supposed to be Mama Bear's laundry, only slightly sexist. And there's Baby Bear's baby bottle. Let's be honest, in the 50s, that's what Mama Bears did. They did laundry. Anyway.
And then the dad would just smoke his pipe.
The dad would smoke pipes. Papa Bear's smoked pipes. So you can look inside, and there's Papa Bear smoking his pipe. And I guess that's supposed to be Mama Bear over there. It looks like she was maybe knitting or something, or maybe just dreaming of laundry. Who knows? But there's a couple of cool references to the story over there. You can see the 3 bowls of porridge right there, and then there's the broken chair that Goldilocks sat in. And there's their 3 beds. One bed was too hard, one bed was too soft, and one bed was just right. And also, the amazing thing is, it smells exactly like the Enchanted Forest did in the early 80s when I remember it. I know that's weird, but I remember what it smells like, and it smells enchanting. This giant birthday cake was in their birthday party pavilion building, and they've restored it beautifully. And it sits here in this little gazebo because you can have birthday parties here. There's lots of room for picnics and groups and parties. And we have Little Red Riding Hood's house. Well, it's Grandma's house actually, but Little Red Riding Hood gets all the credit. And that's over here, and I'm pretty sure this was reconstructed for the park. But inside it has a few of the original figures, including the Big Bad Wolf there, or just Wolf. He's Big Bad Wolf. And there's Little Red Riding Hood right there. They did a really awesome job reconstructing this, or building it from scratch. And this sits in a very, very back, the farthest most back point of the farm. So it's really hidden. So these guys back here, this duck or swan, and then this ugly duckling, were also a ride back in the day. They were hollow inside, and there was seating inside them. And you would sit, and there would be 3 of them, these 2 guys, and then a mother goose that had the engine in it. And the mother goose was actually just a frame over top of like a old station wagon or something. If you sat in the front, you could actually see the speedometer and the gear shift, like the radio and the seat belts. But this was a ride that took you around the park. Again, there was the ugly duckling, and then the swan guy that you could sit inside. You can kind of see where they've capped it off and put the top on it so kids can climb on it. And then the mother goose is here at the park, and that's been refurbished as a sliding board. This is the castle facade that the farm built themselves before they had the actual castle. And this is the actual entrance to the park, and there's a gift shop behind it, some snacks. It's a really neat place. It's a petting zoo. There's some farm-based activities. There's a lot of stuff to do. You could kill a good hour or 2 or even 3, depending on how small your guys are. But it's really neat to see all this Enchanted Forest stuff. It's a shame that they did not keep the park intact the way it was, but it is cool that we still get to visit this stuff. So that's the Enchanted Forest, still in Howard County, Maryland, about 3 to 4 miles away from its original location at Clark's Elioak Farm. Definitely worth a visit if you're into vintage roadside attractions and all that good stuff. Hey, thanks for watching. Check out my other videos, some other theme parks in the area. Lots of cool places that you can take your kids. Thanks for watching.